All right, here we are. Oh, yeah, that's me.
Wrong side of the phone.
Okay, all right.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Oh, I just realized we need to get Courtney's speaker.
Oh no. Hi, Love Blossom 92. If you can hear me, hello. Hi, Alicia Woody.
I think they can.
Anthony Strange.
I think they can hear you, but it's just.
Nanny Marie is excited to be here today
Well, I'm so glad.
because she said that she was going to tune in to these three queens.
And that is accurate.
The queeniest of all the queens.
There we go. There's her voice.
Hi, Orange.
All right. Oh, darn it. We're doing well. It's going real well.
Every freaking time.
Well, here's the thing. I try to turn up the volume on you on this, and for some reason it makes it the hang up button. I don't know. I don't understand technology. I'm an old man. But hi, everybody.
I did get the shirt you returned. Thank you so much, Shelby. Appreciate it.
Let me just pin comment.
Hi, Awesome47 and Philadelphia.
Hi, everybody.
Sorry, that's
All right, we're here. Technology
Guys, there's so
green.
much to talk about today because there's so much going on, and we have freaking an amazing guest, right?
That we should.
So, I'm Courtenay Taylor.
I'm JP Karliak, and welcome to Between Two Nerds.
Between Two, right? Couple things. Guys, if you are in West Virginia, Georgia, North Dakota, Nevada, or South Carolina, today is your voting day.
Today.
Get thee to the polls. Do it.
Yeah, and you may see that there's, either in person or on the news, that there's long lines. Yes, that's true. Get your mask, be socially distant, but get to the polls. It is important.
And you can rewatch all the Between Two Nerds while you're waiting in line.
Yeah. We've got multiple episodes that hopefully by the time you get through all of them, you will have voted.
Please, and let us know that you did vote, and we'll retweet you and put your stickers on, or your NerdsVote pin and your stickers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So be sure to do that. Awesome. And also notice our link at the bottom. Make sure you can vote by mail, bit.ly/nerds@home, so that come November, you don't have to stand in line. You can actually just vote, which is nice.
Yeah, and if you're standing in line right now, you can do it right now. Just go ahead and register. Never stand in line again.
Yeah. Why? For who? Great.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Don't do it.
Let us bring on our guest. She is so amazing. Court, do you want to do the honors?
Yes. Guys, today's, that's why you're here, is because we have Ashley Burch on the show. She's incredible. She's a voice actor. She's a writer. She's a face actor. She's got YouTube shows and stuff. She's totally dope. She's also Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn game, Chloe in Life is Strange, No Big Deal, and she's also Rachel on Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet on Apple TV. Please welcome Miss Ashley Burch.
Pressed it. It's happening.
This is where you press the button.
I know, and I did. Oh, like.
Hi, Jackie Cox.
Wait.
Hi.
Hi. Hello.
How we doing?
It's good now that I see your beautiful faces.
Stop.
Oh
What
my
specifically?
Hi.
Hi.
How y'all doing?
Hey,
Hey.
It's another day in the United States of America.
I feel like the answer to how are you is always, hey, look, and it's just that. There's no other follow-up.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of trying to do the hokey pokey a bit of staying active and staying activist while also being mindful, like, I gotta eat, I gotta sleep, you know, like, and doing the self-care and because, you know, a lot of whether it's voting or it's racial justice or whatever, like it's a marathon. So we got to make sure that we're like, you know, staying fueled and staying active to
also eating is a marathon in my house. So there's that.
Yeah.
Eat
Yeah.
it all.
Apparently, becoming an active activist makes ice cream the only food you need to eat.
I think that's
Well,
true.
because
Or peanut butter.
It's high sugar. It's high energy. You can eat it. It like if you have teeth problems or you know if you have any digestion problems, it's just easy to eat.
Yeah.
You can carry it around
cools
with
your
you.
face, like,
you can like
the perfect
drink it
food.
while you type. It's the perfect food.
yeah. I mean, I think we need all of those foods that you just pull out of the fridge and devour.
Yeah,
Frozen
I've
burritos
eaten
and ice cream in this house. What?
Yeah, I think I've eaten just like non-dairy mac and cheese, which is as gross as it sounds, for like 3 days in a row because I don't have energy for anything else. But thanks, Daya, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I gotta work on that.
I've had
They
some
gotta work
good
on it.
non-dairy mac and cheese. I'm gonna get me some of that, and I'm gonna get it to you. Actually.
Yeah, will you tell me where because I've made a grave misjudgment in my purchasing.
I feel like you could call Amy's and ask them to make a really good one because their like rice mac and cheese and stuff is rice pasta is really good. So maybe they can.
Is it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't had it. I've had
I'll at them. I'll
I
at
have to
Amy's.
say,
lasagna before, and that was really good. Like veggie lasagna, that was real good.
All of their stuff is good. Well, but I have to say, I know that you're on a little bit of a restrictive diet now, Ashley, but I just have to bring this up before we dive deeper into anything. There was a time where you and I were at when OKKO, Let's Be Heroes, was still in the air, and we were recording. And, after one of our sessions, we went to a Mexican restaurant, and we sat and had margaritas and talked about how frustrating it was that we didn't have the opportunity to even have like water cooler talk at work because we all work by ourselves. And from that conversation, we kind of were like, maybe we could do something at conventions, and it got me thinking. So you were a huge part of the catalyst for starting NerdsVote. So I want to thank you very, very much, and the margaritas for getting.
I think the margaritas were the most. I think you should be thanking the margaritas. Really, I think I was more just a sounding board.
in some of our early press packets, we would like attribute tequila as the fuel for our fire here, but then we were like, I don't know how that messaging is going to play.
We kept that one off the one sheet, but since you guys are here, you can know that it's truly Ashley Burch, my voting muse.
Yes, so thank you.
I'm honored to even be a small part of this beautiful creation that you have both made.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, and I'm wearing my merch to the concert.
Yes!
I'm just doing it.
So
I'm showing up.
For anybody who's watching who would like to get NerdsVote merch, just visit nerdsvote.com. We have a store and links to all of our partners who also sell our merch. Courtney's wearing some beautiful pinnage right here.
That's right. It's the beautiful enamel pin, just $5. All proceeds go to the important work we do here at NerdsVote. Thank you very much.
Now that we did that SpawnCon, isn't that what the youth call it, SpawnCon? So, Ashley, voting's what we do here, and
voting.
Thank you so much for inspiring the inception of our organization. What is when you're voting, like when you go out and you do your voting thing, what's your general routine? Do you do it by mail? Do you do it in person? Like,
I do it. I do it by mail because, especially, I mean, as you guys know, voice acting is it can be very run and gun. So you can have a situation where you don't have work and then all of a sudden you have double book days where you have to run from studio to studio when we were allowed to leave the house. So, so it can be sometimes there's not a lot of free time, which I think a lot of people have that issue in general, no matter what your job is. So I signed up for vote by mail a while ago because the other reason I like it is that I can take the ballot and kind of go line by line and sit and start looking stuff up as I'm going through the ballot. So I can just sit at my dinner table or something and go, what is a comptroller? Why is there's 70 judges. Okay, I'm going to look up these judges or whatever. And I can just make a block of time for myself when I have it. And especially because you get your vote by mail ballot well in advance of the actual voting day, you can carve out time to be able to find a block of time where you can research and sit down and text friends for their thoughts and get all the information that you need. And not sort of have to feel like, okay, I have to find a window of time where I can go to the polls in these 2 days or 3 days or whatever it is. So yeah, I just like the flexibility of it a lot. And I know there's also something sort of fun about standing in line and being around everyone and getting to go into the booth. But you can also if you want, you can take your vote by mail and show up to the polling place and sort of see everyone voting and get that sort of yes, camaraderie kind of vibe, and then just drop it off.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing, that you have the option of being able to, if the stars align and you're able to make time to go to the poll and you're like, oh, but I already got this ballot. All good. Just take it with you and drop it off there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, stuff. I've been a vote by mail person for 5 years, I think, at this point, and
it's the best.
It is, specifically because I get to sit with it. I get to be thoughtful about it. I get to talk to friends about who all the judges are and ballot propositions and all of that. So that has been super useful. Do you have an early memory of voting, like the first time you voted, or just a general voting, oh, that was fun?
So the first time I voted was for President Obama. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember it very well, apart from just oh my God, it's the first time I get to vote. I did vote by mail. I sent it in. But I think I'll admit, back then, like many people, I was focused on just the president. So I was excited to vote for Obama. I didn't really look into anything else. And I think what memory I'm excited about now is the last time that we were able to vote. Time doesn't mean anything to me anymore, so I don't remember. But the last time after Trump got elected was when I really sort of had to come to Jesus about, okay, I need to make sure that I'm looking through everything. I understand the whole ballot. And a lot of my friends had the same experience. So there was a connection, a camaraderie, and sort of almost a social element to sitting down with your ballot and talking to friends about it. And it was really fun. It was there was a little bit of guilt about why didn't we do this earlier? Or why is this the first time that we're really digging into this? But at the same time, because so many people were having a similar experience, that we all were sort of figuring it out together in a way that was really nice. And as with lots of things, better late than never. So yeah, I guess that's 4 years ago now, I suppose, that I really was I'm going to fill out every circle on this ballot. And I'm going to look up every name. And I'm going to do my best to know who I am voting for. Because as we see,
now we really see it. I mean, this last couple of weeks, I think a lot of us have been, getting more involved in seeing that, oh, these are the people that are actually making the rules in our hometowns. This is the people who either appoint or re-elect our police chiefs and commissioners, and or they're being appointed by people that we elect. And when people are starting to talk about defunding the police or whatever term you want to use for it, it's people are asking those things to be turned towards other programs. And what are those programs, and who's taking charge of those programs? What kind of oversight are there going to be if money gets funded towards education? Who's on your school board? It doesn't matter if you have kids. These are things that your tax dollars are paying for, whether you like it or not. So it's important to get into the game, and it's kind of one of those things, I think, that sometimes it takes something like this where you actually are oh, now I got to connect the dots. Now who is my council person?
Right.
You know, who can I, and we don't realize that like your council person here in Los Angeles, we have those. If you have an issue with the city or a developer or, you know, a lot of different things, you can write to those people and they can assist you, like neighborhood watch things, stuff like that. These are things that actually do affect you. So it's really important to take a look at them.
And those elections are also because so few people participate in them. Your vote, I mean, a lot of people, I know there's this sort of narrative of like, my vote doesn't matter. Even if you believe that on a federal level, your vote super matters in local elections because people don't vote.
It
so
can be decided by literally a handful of votes.
Yeah, like,
and also,
like
if you don't vote, that's a vote. You're going to vote either way. Your lack of vote is a vote for something. So, you know, we Americans always talk about how, you know, we're like, you know, individuals and, you know, these are the things that as Americans we should be like, hey, you know, we don't want these things being decided by other people, but the lack of your vote doesn't not decide them. It just gets decided for you.
Right. You're basically, you're removing your voice from the process, which just makes more room for the people that are speaking. So yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things where like, okay, you know, if you live in California like we do, the likelihood that California is going to go to Trump, if that's what, you know, it's very small. The likelihood that Joe Biden is going to take the state is very large. So even if you feel like you can't make a difference or have your voice heard in whatever direction you want it to be heard, and the national level, like your city councilor does a lot, as we've learned, you know, the city council controls the budget for the city. And as it turns out, that's massively important for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
You mad about
and also
you mad about
if you're mad about the potholes, all the way to the cops. Like, yeah, there's a lot that they have purview over. And the other thing too is because there's a lot of them and they're so local, they have to listen to you. Like, I'm starting to think like when things open up, I'm gonna go hang out with my city councilor. I'm calling him all the time. I'm like, you're gonna know me, dude. Like, we're gonna have the face to face because it's actually possible, way more than a congressperson or a senator.
Yeah.
Your city councilors their purview is larger than the city, but then as far as their district, it's much smaller. So you can have like direct interface with them in a way you couldn't with another elected official.
Yeah, and I don't live in Los Angeles. I live in Glendale, so you know we're yay big. And I wrote to my city council member, one of the ones that I actually campaigned for because he's his climate change platform, and I emailed him. I was like, "Hey, longtime fan, first time caller, blah blah blah. You know, just get back. If one of your staff could get back to me at some point regarding these issues, I'd appreciate it." He personally wrote me back in 15 minutes. Granted, he's new, so maybe he hasn't learned boundaries yet, but that's okay. I'm taking advantage of that because he is super accessible. And I think, you know, and I think for those of you out there who are living in small towns that, you know, it's not as big as LA and there's not as much bureaucracy and everything, your council members might even be your neighbor. And there's nothing wrong with holding them accountable for like, hey, or especially if you did vote for them. Like, I think I always harp on this, but sometimes I think we get in the mindset like one of two things. I voted for them, so I'm not going to challenge them because I trust them to do their thing. No, always hold them accountable. Or I didn't vote for them, so they're just inherently bad and they're not going to listen to anything I say. Wrong. No matter who.
They want to get reelected.
Yeah, no matter who
they want to get reelected.
Yeah.
They want to get reelected. And also with social media being what it is, you have an opportunity to reach out. And even if you don't get a response, you know, there's people who are on all levels recording that you have written in, that you have called, that you have emailed, that you sent postcards or whatever it is. So even just a teeny effort of, I mean, I looked up somebody the other day. I think it was the mayor of Buffalo, and just, you know, his DMs are open. So I sent him my thoughts, and he didn't get back to me because obviously I live, you know, in California, and maybe they just disregard that. But at least I had something to say, and it took me 2 minutes. And you can obviously, it's not partisan. It's not anything else. You should be able to reach over party lines to ask politely and, offer solutions. I wrote to the city council last night and just said, hey, this is what I think is important for our city to focus on. There's tons of traffic. It's super dirty. The public transportation, Los Angeles doesn't have transportation to the airport yet. We don't have public transportation to our airport, which is crazy. So those are the things that I was listing off, and didn't just say like, you guys suck, or something like that, but I was like, these are the things that I would like you to focus on. So I think that's an important thing when you are reaching out, to say what you want to change, and if you have some solutions, to put them forward.
And that's the thing too, is that I think, and look, there's a lot that needs to change about our voting system. But I think, there's often the narrative of, well, the system's broken, so I'm not going to participate. And I think that's because our focus on the system has been extremely narrow up to this point. Like, you ask any person that's worked in local government and they're like, well, their argument is sort of like, well, we're listening to our constituents, and the constituents that speak to us are of a certain demographic. And so if you want them to respond to your demographic, then you have to tell them what you need and what you want, and challenge, have there be other voices in the room that are challenging the sort of, if you don't like the status quo, challenge the status quo by going to these places. And I think it's way more achievable to affect change on a local level, which then ripples outward, So it can seem, a lot of stuff that we want to change can seem daunting. And I think sometimes I find it very encouraging to know that local government is extremely accessible, and your line between you and your city councilor is a lot more direct than your senator or your congressperson or the president. And sometimes it takes ground level changes to affect things going all the way up. And that's something that we all have the capacity to do by actually paying attention to who we're voting for, keeping track of them, and keeping them accountable.
Yeah, because if the system is in fact broken, and I'm pretty sure it is, it doesn't fix itself in a vacuum. Like, it's
right.
And regardless of whether we like it or not, it is the system we have, and will continue to affect everybody's life in the country and the world. So yeah, it is up to us to keep active in the system. If you want to fix it, you have to fix it from the inside out. Like it or not.
And also, on not just election years, that's the thing. People come up with, they get reminded that it's voting time, and people get mad about something, and they're like, well, I'm not going to participate, or I'm going to vote third party, or write in, a candidate. Those are things that you should be wrestling with, and putting work towards in the off years, because by the time elections are rolling around, it's too late. The minute that election cycle is over is when you need to start looking at how you want to change things, because like November 2nd isn't the time.
Right.
That's just my personal opinion, but Yeah.
Truly. What are you drinking?
Kombucha.
Me?
I know every time I drink something, I'm like, this just looks like booze. Like, I was in a voiceover session, and I had
tasty, like, grapefruit Paloma, or like a Pomeranian margarita. That was just like, that's very refreshing.
No, it's kombucha, I swear. I was in a VO session the other day, and I don't really drink coffee, so I had an iced tea, and it was a headcam session, so I like brought up the tea to drink, and I was like, oh, this just looks like beer. And I was like, I swear to God, I'm not drinking beer at a 9 a.m. session. I swear to God. And they were like, honestly, if you were
somebody who does.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. And they were like, if you were, we would understand. And I was like, well,
yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I had a voice director with a mug that said, there's a good chance this is whiskey on the mug.
Yeah.
This is just pure warm vodka. Delicious.
Ashley, just wanted to throw, this is not a question, it's more of a statement, but Leviathan Strange says that they love Chloe, and they did a male cosplay version of Chloe.
I want to see! Maybe it's on their Instagram, probably.
Yeah. So
can we get pictures?
Right. The funny thing is that the only device I have to look stuff up is the one that I'm talking to you on. So I don't know how that works. Leviathan Strange, if you have a photo and there's a way to send it to us, and we'll applaud. Otherwise, we'll look at it after. We promise.
Yeah, you can send it to NerdsVote on social media, and we'll repost it.
Yeah.
Yay.
And if anybody has any other questions for Ashley, feel free to throw them in that little question mark thing at the bottom. We will get to as many as we can. You know, no promises, but we'll try. Cool. So the question that we love to ask everybody is, who are you voting for? But when we ask, what we actually mean is, when you are casting your ballot this November by mail, who will be on
with a cup of purple kombucha in your hand?
Because you can take beverages with you when you're at home voting. Who will be on your mind that you want that vote to benefit?
I mean, usually, I think more, I guess I think more like holistically or globally when I'm voting rather than like for a specific person. And I have a lot of issues that I care about. I'm whatever the opposite of a single issue voter is. I'm a multiple issue voter.
A pan issue voter.
A pan issue voter.
Yeah.
And so I'm mostly trying to think of like, you know, how is this impacting communities of color? How is this affecting our planet and environmental justice? How is this supporting teachers and education? And so it's a very broad answer, but I really am trying to think about like, if I'm visualizing the type of world that I want to be in and the type of people that I think need support and the sort of efforts that I want to see go forward, I think about that a lot. I mean, a thing that's big things that are mostly on my mind are racial justice and environmental justice when I'm voting. And so that's sort of what I keep in mind when I go. When I sit with my kombucha.
Sorry. You're also
No.
a big advocate for mental health issues, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is that something that you are thinking of as well, or do you kind of keep that to your social media and private life kind of things?
I do, absolutely, especially when there's an opportunity, like if there are ballot measures that are about mental health, absolutely. I think there was one semi-recently, I think, about people experiencing homelessness and mental health, and that was a big one recently. Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing, like, again, we tend to think in terms of federal or state in the way that we're voting. And the thing, honestly, that I get excited about when I'm voting a lot are the ballot measures, because those are things that are, I think they're like tactile, like you understand what they are, what they mean, how they affect the city. And these are things that those are all constructed and executed locally, you know? So, yeah, I sort of have a broad view when I'm voting, but I also, especially now, I'm starting to think more like how can local action affect broad change?
Yeah, for sure.
That was the one thing I did want to ask. We ask a lot of our guests like how they're coping, you know, with being home, and I know the voice industry is not coming back as quickly as other industries. So a lot of us are still kind of sheltering in place. How is that for you? What are you doing to kind of keep yourself inspired and motivated? And honestly, like, you know, now we have this whole other layer of not just being sequestered from our friends and family, and some people are sheltering in place alone, which could be better or worse than sheltering in place with people. You know, how, with the stress that's going on, you know, the constant news cycle and everything that's happened in the last couple of weeks, are there things that you are doing to kind of keep yourself centered and sane and also just creative and moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, some things help sometimes and not others. But what I've found is, I think maybe you might have both been saying this earlier on, but the idea that it's a marathon, not a sprint. I know that I can put a lot of pressure on myself to do as much as humanly possible as fast as possible, and ultimately that leads to burnout and that leads to disengaging. And so I'm really trying to pace myself and not expect to have even when it was just the pandemic happening, I could feel that like my level of energy was significantly less than before. Like doing two or three things in a day would have been like not that much before the pandemic. And then during the pandemic, all of a sudden, half the work felt like it took three times the effort. So I think I've had to learn a lot of patience with myself, that I'm not operating at the same level that I feel like I should, or whatever it happens to be. Um, so I'm kind of making a pact, which is like, if you're tired, you stop. You, for a second, you watch a dumb YouTube video, you sit and you meditate for X amount of time, you journal, you eat something, make sure you're eating something, kind of thing. And even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes, to see what's my energy level like after that, how do I feel after that? Because I used to just not even do that, especially in the pre-pandemic days. I would like rush from thing to thing to thing to thing and not even breathe, really.
Right.
And what all of this is forcing me to realize is, oh, I can't sustain that. I don't think I was even sustaining it before the pandemic. I was just sort of convincing myself I was. So, just taking time to unplug, and not unplug in a way that like I don't come back.
Yes.
Seeing it as something that is, it's a cycle. And when I start to feel overwhelmed, that means I need to calm my nervous system down. And then once it's calm, okay, how can I help again? And just trying to see it that way. Because otherwise, I mean, there's a lot of, I know Eric Ishii posted this, I've seen it a couple of other places, but the idea that like activists in particular, when you dedicate your life to activism, a lot of folks will like, go in so hard that they burn out and then they can't come back. And if you care that much, we need you. So take care of yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the metaphor that I keep talking about is, and I feel like self-care always has the metaphor of putting your mask on first before helping others.
Yeah.
And I think there is an absolute necessity to be able to put your mask on first, while also recognizing, in the context of an actual airplane, the reason you are putting your mask on first is not so you can get comfy, so you can get it like,
yeah, right.
it's so you can save your life and have your life to be able to help other people's lives,
Mm-hmm.
So I think, it is about finding the balance between taking care of yourself so that you are strong and refreshed and able to do the work, while also not just laying back and, getting.
Yeah,
But
right.
yeah, and especially in the context of other people, because so many people, ultimately we want to be of service in some way, and if you're struggling, then you cannot be a shoulder to lean on for anybody else. So it doesn't mean that person that you are putting your mask on first and are going to get to that person, once you do that, you can be so much greater help to them and other people. So sometimes it's hard to go like, oh, well, I just want to do this for myself. It feels selfish. But if you're putting it in a context of like, so that I can be of service to other people, for me, that always helps to be able to say, like, it's not just for me. It's
right.
for a lot of people.
Right. And it can be hard to tell it can feel like bullshit when you're saying it to yourself, but it's just true. I mean, you're not a machine. You
Right.
have to sleep, eat, and watch an episode of Queer Eye, and then you can come back and you can call your senator or your city councilor or whatever you're going to do, but, or go to a protest or whatever it is.
You
So
just
yeah.
described
With your
my
mask on.
weekend. Awesome. We actually have a question from 40 Years Since, who asks, how can we go beyond voting to benefit our future society?
Oh, that's such a great question.
It is a good question. I mean, look, we're a voting rights organization, so obviously that is like our big thing. But
Uh-huh.
I think we all recognize that it is a system of many parts in creating change. Voting is a biggie, but protest and other things as well.
And following up with, accountability is huge for, I think we're seeing in a huge way right now, radical change is happening because people are reaching out, holding people accountable for their actions. And following up, I wanted to kind of like set an alarm for myself so that in 3 months I follow up with, the city council here in LA and be like, hey, we're still watching, because the thing is with the crazy 24-hour news cycle and everything getting thrown at us all the time, you forget about things that enraged you a couple of weeks ago because you're just overwhelmed. But I think that is super important. Is it's a marathon, not a sprint again. And with reaching out to people to hold them accountable and continue to hold them accountable, and to be part of your, if there's a neighborhood group that holds people accountable, not only just reaching out, but, writing all the letters and everything that we just talked about, but also consider getting involved yourself. You live in this neighborhood. That politics is not magic. And it doesn't take something special to do these things. I have friends who are on the city council or the neighborhood council here in my neighborhood, and they're just, a good friend of ours, Sarah Cravens, ran for her, what seat was it?
Neighborhood
Stacey?
council, wasn't it?
Remember? Yeah, and so, she didn't win, but she came pretty close, and she had never run for anything. She came in third or something, I think, and she had never run for anything before. And I think it's about knowing, how much things matter to you and how much energy you have to give, not because you went to a fancy school or because you are a poli-sci major or something.
The other thing I'll say too is that I think a lot of change also happens socially and internally. So having conversations with loved ones about things that matter to you is important. And then also, I think doing work on yourself so that you are, not only taking care of yourself, but also interrogating your own belief system and evaluating who you are and what you believe, and questioning your beliefs and making sure that you're not just taking things at face value, but you have a critical eye toward the way you operate in the world and the way that it affects your voting and your politics. Just being hyper aware and having curiosity to examine why you believe the things you believe, and why you vote the way you vote, and to make sure that you are voting from a place of your own heart, and that you are investigating who you are, and that that you're putting out your best self into the world with the actions that you take on a community and social level.
Yeah, for sure. Ash, as you've been, posting and interacting with the community during, since the murder of George Floyd and with everything going on, do you find that the interactions that you've had with fans and the community has been cool, or have you received any pushback, or how do you?
For the most part, I think people are pretty supportive. I think the sort of consistent narrative is a bit the it's sort of the all lives matter perspective, which I think is it's a lack of that self-examination that I was sort of talking about, which I get that everyone sort of sees themselves as the hero of their own story. I get that no one wants to be told that they were given sort of a free pass on a lot of stuff. I get that people don't like being told that they're part of a corrupt system and that they benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
But not liking those things doesn't make them any less true. And, you know, I'm half Asian, but I'm white passing as fuck. So it sort of doesn't matter. Like, I have white privilege, even as a non-white person. And I benefit from that system. It is my responsibility to interrogate that benefit and to see how I can, in my community, with my platform, in my social settings, how I can use that privilege to be of service to other people. And that also, it is a process. So I saw recently that one of my friends posted that Google searches for "Am I racist?" went up by 3 times since all this happened.
I appreciate that people are asking the question.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And the answer is probably a little bit. If,
I mean,
you know, like, you know what I mean? Like,
song is gospel truth. Like, everyone's
yeah,
a little bit racist.
a friend of a friend is organizing a sort of like a book club of the book Me and White Supremacy, which is a workbook. It's a 28-day workbook where you basically go through and you answer questions and you write and you examine your relationship with your white privilege and your relationship to white supremacy. And me and a few friends are doing it, and it's like intense.
Me and White Supremacy is what it's called?
Me and White Supremacy.
And can I get it on a website or something?
Yeah, there's an ebook available on Amazon for like $3 if you want to avoid Amazon. I'm sure you can get it you can order it off of a black-owned
okay.
Bookstore.
Any independent bookstore.
Any independent bookstore.
What's that one? Indio is the online independent bookstore shop. Is that what it's called?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's cool. It's like you'd have to Google it. I don't know if it's actually called Indio, but it's basically
I'm Googling it.
It's a website you go to and you put in your zip code, and it connects you to all of the local bookstores in your area that do some sort of online sale, or you can do pickup or something like that. Now, obviously, the hard part is that, you know, as you get into more rural areas, or, you know, honestly, my partner lives in Long Beach and he doesn't have a ton around him either. But there are, you can usually at least find an independent bookstore that will ship, you know.
Yeah, totally.
And a lot of them will actually ship faster than Amazon right now, because Amazon's supposed to be doing, you know, their priority is supposed to be priority goods. So places like bookshop.org that donate proceeds to independent bookstores. I can't find the one that you're talking about, JP, but anything that's local, indiebound.org will give you indie bookstore.
That might be it, maybe. Anyway, getting back to what we were talking about. So, so you're going through this workbook, and it is super eye-opening.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, you know, it's not enough to say that you're not racist or that you're not. You know, the goal is not, obviously. There's not many of us are David Duke. Thank fucking God. But that's not really the point. You know, the point is that if you look white, you've benefited from white privilege. You just have. And you know, you didn't opt in, like you didn't choose. So of course people are like, I know people are feeling like, why am I getting yelled at for something that I have no control over? And the reason is, well, because people are dying and have been for many, 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 many years because of the color of their skin, and they're fucking tired and they're angry, and that's understandable. But I also get the human reaction of not being in that community, feeling over.
Yeah.
Oh, hello?
Are you there?
I am. Why is my phone being so weird?
I can see your shed. Or
Oh, has it frozen?
It's frozen a little bit.
I think it is frozen. 1 second.
But we can hear
I think
you.
I know why.
Okay.
1 moment. I'll just keep talking, and you can look at this weird angle of my backyard.
Lovely.
Yeah. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
it's nothing novel. nothing that I'm saying is particularly novel, but yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the main pushback that I get, which is of basically people being like, I don't like being told that I'm racist, and I get it, but
Bingo.
hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I think my phone just went kaput a little bit.
Oh.
I had to plug it in. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know. I have some compassion for the confusion and the fear around it. Because I'm not part of a community where my community members are constantly getting murdered
Mm-hmm.
or subjugated in some ways. So I have room to have some compassion for that. But ultimately, you know, it's no one that supports the Black Lives Matter movement is suggesting that all lives don't matter.
Right.
No, it's not.
And
The idea is only white lives have mattered to this point.
right.
And so we need to even the fucking scales.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we've seen the Amish protesting for racial justice. So at this point, the idea of like, I didn't know, you know, it kind of it no longer applies. And
Right.
If the Amish are on the scene,
yeah, like they actually bothered to pick up the paper and read you know, because they do still get the paper, and they read it and they were like, oh, that's not cool.
This isn't good.
Yeah, and we're able to recognize that enough that they actually like went out into the streets and protested. So, you know, I think the big shift for people that are very all lives matter or my life has been hard too is to use that not as selfishly as but what about me, but use it more empathetically as like, oh, my life has been hard. I have faced hardship, so I understand hardship. These people that are experiencing hardship that is greater in some ways than mine. Okay, I can empathize with that because, you know, the equating of life is hard. Not saying that it's difficult in the same way, but that it's, you know, just empathy. Just like, oh, life is hard. Yes.
It's not the Olympics and everybody's competing against each other. This is one conversation.
Right.
And
Right.
it's not the only conversation. Obviously, there's many other kinds of privilege, like we talked to Stephanie Shea last week, and we were talking about economic privilege. It's not always based on the color of your skin, but that's not this conversation. So It doesn't mean that we're not going to get to that conversation, that we're, you know, not going to talk about women or other people of color, but this is what's happening right now, and that will also have repercussions for anyone who hasn't been privileged in certain ways. There will be more scrutiny of how other people are treated, you know, economically, you know, people who have been charged with crimes, things like that. This is a pebble hitting the water, and it will have hopefully really wonderful ramifications, positive ramifications for people of every stripe who I think we've all, you know, had some difficulty in our lives.
Yeah, and there are people that are at the top of the food chain that have ostensibly all the privilege, which leaves us to argue amongst ourselves who has more or less, instead of uniting together and saying, okay, we understand that each other have hard lives. Let's fight to make sure that we don't anymore.
Right. And that's the thing, that if you're a poor white person in America, Black people are not your enemy. You know who your enemies are, the people that are hoarding all the wealth.
Trans people.
They're not your competition.
Yeah, they're not. They're in the fucking muck with you.
And one that's
and worse, you know? So this again, it's the great smokescreen of, ooh, look over there. Look at those people over there. They're bad. Meanwhile, that person is fucking just Scrooge McDucking all of the wealth in the world. And it's we have an opportunity basically to start self-examining and to start start questioning, is this entire group of people really responsible for X, Y, or Z problems? Who is telling me this? Why are they telling me this? Why does it benefit them to promote this narrative? Why does it benefit news companies to promote the narrative that there's just looting and rioting happening everywhere? And not examining even why rioting or looting would be happening. What sort of anger leads people to do that? Like, why is that not the narrative that's being promoted everywhere?
Yep.
Why are we not examining that? Why, like, you know, I mean, it's one of those things where people are like, don't believe everything you hear on the news, is the old adage, but it's true. It's especially when you compare social media versus what you're seeing on social media versus what you're seeing on the news. It's striking. And it's one of those things where it's like now more than ever, I think we have to sort of use better judgment and self-examine more, because there are a lot of dangerous narratives that people are promoting that are not anywhere near close to reality.
Yep.
And it's kind of up to us to sort through the chaff and find out, you know, where we should be directing our energies.
Yeah. I do have to do a shout out to the chat. I'm sorry that we haven't been getting to you a lot, but this is like the most engaged chat I've seen in a while in terms of like engaging with what we're talking about. I mean, they're talking about the interest of wealth, and Brene Brown's talk about empathy, and like, bravo, everybody. You guys are doing the work, and my heart goes out to all of you. You're amazing.
And I also want to just mention Davidson Frith here, who's talking about a little bit about some of your roles in video games, just to kind of bring it back a little bit, but also intermingle these two things. Davidson says, I'm asexual and love their representation and your performance in the outer world. I didn't know it was all one person until recently. And I'm curious if you have some characters, I know it's always hard to pick one, but some characters that kind of pop out to you that have really aligned with your feelings about representation.
Yeah, I mean, I feel very lucky to have been able to play so many amazing female characters. I mean, I'm sure Courtenay can speak to this as well, but the amount of female representation in games has increased in a way that, like, I played games since I was a little kid, and there were no women like Chloe. There were no women like Jack from Mass Effect. There were no women like Aloy. You know, that just didn't happen. It was not a thing that existed. So the fact that, you know, Horizon Zero Dawn is a major franchise, that you have one option for your protagonist and it's a woman, and it's a narrative and it's about her and her experience and her journey, is like pretty fucking amazing. And same with Parvati. Like, I know that character is so meaningful to so many people because she occupied the space of representation that a lot of people hadn't seen, really. You know, there's not really a lot of asexual video game characters, let alone, you know, bisexual, asexual, or biromantic asexual video game characters. So I know she was a really meaningful character. But it has also, you know, especially with everything going on, it has also made me think of like how much farther we really need to go with other forms of representation. You know, we don't have nearly enough people of color as leads in games. And there's something very powerful to playing a game and not having the option of choosing your protagonist. So there are obviously lots of games where you can create an avatar or create a character and make it look like you, which is really awesome. But I think there's something also very significant about playing a game and having to step into someone else's shoes and not getting to choose what that person looks like or who they are, who they love. So I would really like to see more of that, because I think that it's power. Games are very powerful in that way, because second only to maybe to novels where you are literally inside the head of a character, you are controlling this person and their movements, and their life is literally in your hands. So I I would like to see more diverse representation. You know, I would love to see a franchise that's spearheaded by a Black woman or even a Black man. I mean, I know that there are games that exist like that, but I don't think there are enough. Like, we need
Especially
more
not
of that type of
AAA.
representation, especially in AAA. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even in the indie space, you know, I got curious and I started looking like, oh, I wonder, like, I'm curious about like indie games made by Black developers or prominent Black developers in the industry, and there's not that much. It's hard. It's kind of hard to find, you know, indie games that are, and if there are a bunch, they're not being, you know, they're not accessible in terms of promotion. Like, people aren't backing them or talking about them. So we have a long way to go in that regard. Which also gets into a whole conversation about how there's like a huge gender and race gap with STEM and computer science and all that kind of stuff. But I think in terms of like, you know, representation in games, I think I really do think we've come a long way with how we represent women. And I think it's important to celebrate our victories because when I was growing up, it was metal bikinis and it was damsels in distress.
Oh, yeah.
And now there are all sorts of female characters. And I think, you know, other marginalized groups kind of deserve the same treatment.
It's actually interesting just to look at, you know, because I do a lot of deep dives on YouTube videos. Oops. And looking at just like the development of like the Mortal Kombat series, of like the way the way that Katana and like the other women in the franchise are dressed, starting at the beginning when it's hyper sexualized, and it kind of arcs even worse. And then now it's like it looks more like battle ready gear, like that would be, oh, you could fight in that, as opposed to, whoa, you know.
Straight bikini sniper. That's
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I'm sure you could have a deadly match wearing that thong. Good luck.
Right.
Yeah. You're belly crawling over nothing in a bikini.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So before we let you go, Ash, I know some people want to know what you playing.
I'll be honest, I was playing a lot of Animal Crossing and I've abandoned it. I've abandoned my child. I was just in it for so long.
It's like an old Tamagotchi where it's like, oh crap, it's dead.
Yeah. I think when I started participating in the stock market, I was like, this is getting stressful. Animal Crossing has gone from being like a Zen garden to now I'm thinking about finances and getting the best deal for my turnips, and I gotta tap out.
That's real life. No.
That I was like, it's too close. It's too close. I can't.
Yeah.
I did a really weird thing, which is that I don't know about you guys, but I feel I keep talking about having quarantine brain, where I like won't be able to remember something very, very simple, or I'll be, oh, okay, I have to go do this, and then I'll walk into the room I was supposed to do it in. I'm like, why the fuck am I in here? And I could not for the life of me tell you. All the time. Yeah. So I was like, I think my brain is atrophying or something. So I actually ordered. There's a game that I'm sure a lot of people will know called Brain Age, which is used to be on the DS. And there's a Switch version, but it was only released in Japan and Europe. And so I ordered a copy of Brain Age from the UK so I could play it on my Switch. So that's what I'm playing. A region-free version of Brain Age.
Awesome. Well, we're about to time out, but this was so great. Thank you so much for being on our show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
If you could sign off as, let's say, what was the popular one? Chloe? Aloy?
Or Chloe.
If you could sign off as Aloy or Chloe and tell people to vote, what would you say?
Let's see.
Or Enid.
Oh, Enid. Oh, I should do Enid because you're here.
Go for it.
Hey, it's Enid. You should vote. Don't be a dummy.
Fair enough. Ashley, thank you so much.
Thank you. Really nice to talk to you guys.
You too.
It's great to see you, Ash. I hope to see you.
It's great to see you.
Bye.
Bye. Guys, isn't she great?
Absolutely. All right, we have 25 seconds. So everybody, just so you know, our guest on Thursday is Kari Payton from The Walking Dead. So make sure that you join us then.
From The Walking Dead.
Yes.
Do it.
Amazing. So we will see you then until Thursday at 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. Peace.